I want to talk with you about something important, something that almost slipped past the news but could have changed life for millions of older Americans. In fact, if you're between 50 and 65, or you know someone who is, this might be one of the most important updates you hear all year. Recently, the Social Security Administration was working on a rule that could have made it much harder for older workers to qualify for disability benefits. It was a quiet change, hidden deep inside government paperwork, until something unexpected happened behind closed doors. And what happened next is the part most people still don't know. Stay with me because halfway through this video, I'm going to reveal the surprising turning point that stopped this rule in its tracks and why it matters for your financial security going forward. What the administration planned to change. Most people didn't know it was happening, but for months, the Social Security Administration was quietly working on a major rule change. One that could have completely reshaped how disability benefits are approved, especially for older workers. This wasn't a small adjustment. It would have changed the very foundation of how SSDI and SSI claims are judged. Here's what the proposal aimed to do. It would have taken age out of the disability evaluation process, or at least made it far less important. For decades, age has been a key factor because the system recognizes a basic truth that most older Americans already understand. When you reach your 50s or 60s, it becomes much harder to switch careers or learn a brand new type of job. Your body changes, your energy changes, and if you spent your life doing physically demanding work, your options become more limited. This proposal would have removed that understanding from the disability process. Under the plan, a 58-year-old with decades of heavy labor experience would have been evaluated almost the same as a 25-year-old. Officials pushing the rule said people today live longer, work in less physical jobs, and can adapt more easily. They also said the system needed modernization, especially because SSA still relies on outdated job lists that include positions that no longer exist, like nut sorter or telephone quotation clerk. Updating that job database cost the government about $350 million over the years. While updating job information is reasonable, using it to reduce the role of age caused enormous concern. Disability attorneys, medical experts, and advocates said the proposal ignored real-life challenges. For example, older adults dealing with chronic back pain, nerve damage, heart issues, or mobility problems are not physically able to shift into office work or gig jobs like Uber or DoorDash, even if those jobs are available at all. By late 2025, the seriousness of the rule became clear. Analysts estimated that around 750,000 people could lose disability benefits over 10 years if this rule went into effect. And it wouldn't stop there. About 80,000 widows, widowers, and children could also lose benefits tied to a disabled worker's eligibility. The change wasn't small. It would have hit older Americans the hardest and reshaped disability benefits for decades to come. Why people were worried and how the public reacted. Once word of the proposed rule began to leak out in October 2025, people reacted quickly and emotionally. Disability advocates, lawmakers, and everyday Americans felt blindsided. Many said they were shocked that such a big change was happening quietly, deep inside government paperwork, without the public really knowing. Advocacy groups immediately sounded the alarm. They warned that removing age from disability decisions would punish older workers who had already spent their lives in physically demanding jobs. People in construction, mining, caregiving, warehouse work, manufacturing, and agriculture would be especially vulnerable. These are jobs that take a toll on the body, and when a worker in their 50s or early 60s gets injured or sick, finding a less demanding job is often unrealistic. The backlash grew rapidly. More than 160 Democratic lawmakers signed a letter urging the administration to stop the plan. Even some conservatives expressed concerns because the proposed rule would have affected many older adults in rural states, areas where health problems tend to appear earlier and good job options are harder to find. Analysts and think tanks reviewed the data and raised more alarms. The Urban Institute warned that older workers could see their approval rates drop by up to 30%. In other words, nearly 1 out of every 3 older applicants could be told no when they previously would have qualified. People also worried about what would happen if disability benefits were denied. Social Security disability insurance is not just a monthly payment, it's also how many people under 65 get access to early Medicare. Losing SSDI could mean losing access to essential medications, surgery, or treatment. Many older adults would be forced to take early Social Security retirement just to survive, locking themselves into permanently lower benefits for the rest of their lives. Communities that depend heavily on disability benefits, like West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Mississippi, would have been hit the hardest. Ironically, many of these areas include strong support for former President Trump, meaning the proposed rule could have created political backlash among core supporters. By November, the pressure was immense. Disability groups warned this rule could push thousands into poverty. Real people began sharing their stories, and many felt anxious, wondering whether their benefits were at risk. This overwhelming public response set the stage for the unexpected twist that came next, something almost no one saw coming. The surprising reversal. How one meeting changed everything. Just when it seemed like the new disability rule was almost guaranteed to move forward, something unexpected happened. And honestly, it surprised even the people who had been fighting it the hardest. In mid-November, a group of disability advocates, including attorney Jason Turkish, were invited to a meeting at the White House. These advocates came prepared with real-life stories. Stories meant to show the human side of what these policy changes would actually mean. One of those stories was about Christopher Tyner, a former coal miner who lost his leg in a work accident. Under the proposed rule, someone like Christopher could have been denied benefits simply because the system decided his age shouldn't matter anymore. According to people who were in the room as this story was being shared, something shifted. One of the senior White House staff members had read about Christopher earlier that day. Hearing the full story face to face made the impact feel real, not just numbers on a page. And then came the moment nobody expected. Russell Vought, one of the main officials pushing for the rule change, spoke up during the meeting and said plainly, "This isn't going to be happening." This was the same person who had been advocating for the new rule for months. For him to reverse his position out loud in that room was shocking, even to the disability experts sitting beside him. Shortly after that meeting, Social Security Commissioner Frank Basignano privately confirmed that the rule was being abandoned. He told advocates that both the White House and the Social Security Administration were now fully aligned on one decision. The proposal was being dropped. There wasn't a big public announcement, no press conference, no official statement. In fact, the rule technically still appears in the Federal Register with a scheduled date, almost like a ghost still lingering in the paperwork. But multiple insiders confirmed that the plan is effectively dead. This reversal didn't happen because of politics or data models. It happened because real people shared real stories, and the human cost finally became impossible to ignore. One meeting, one conversation, and one story changed the entire direction of a policy that could have affected hundreds of thousands of older Americans. What the reversal means for older workers and disabled Americans. Now that the proposed rule has been dropped, many older workers and people with disabilities can breathe a little easier. The biggest relief is this: you will not be reevaluated under harsher new standards, and age will continue to be part of how disability claims are judged. That means if you're in your 50s or early 60s, the system will still recognize that retraining or shifting careers is not as simple as it is for someone much younger. This protects people who have spent decades in physically demanding jobs: construction, factory work, caregiving, mining, warehouse jobs, and more. Another major point is that people receiving SSDI will continue to have access to early Medicare. Losing SSDI doesn't just mean losing a monthly check. It can also mean losing access to essential surgeries, medications, and treatments. Early Medicare is a lifeline, especially for older adults with chronic health problems. If the rule had gone forward, many people denied disability would have been forced to take early retirement benefits, permanently lowering their Social Security payments for the rest of their lives. That future is now off the table. The reversal also prevents large-scale harm in certain regions. States like West Virginia, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Arkansas, where health issues often appear earlier and heavy labor jobs are common, would have experienced major losses. Ironically, many of these states have strong support for former President Trump. Internal polling from a Trump-aligned organization showed that these voters would have strongly opposed the rule. The Social Security Administration still plans to update its outdated job database. And yes, that's necessary. The government has spent over $350 million trying to fix listings that still include jobs that disappeared decades ago. But now the agency is working to modernize its systems without punishing older adults or ignoring real-world limitations related to age, health, and physical ability. Commissioner Basignano has also emphasized improving wait times. As of late 2025, there were about 867,000 disability claims pending, with average wait times of over 200 days. That's more than half a year of waiting just to get a decision. The agency now plans to focus on clearing backlogs instead of tightening eligibility. The bottom line, the rule reversal protects older Americans, safeguards access to disability benefits, and keeps age-based protections in place, at least for now. Why this policy almost happened and who it would have hurt most. Now let's take a closer look at why this policy was even created in the first place. Understanding the reasons behind it helps explain why so many people reacted strongly once they learned what was going on. The idea of removing age as a factor in disability decisions didn't appear out of thin air. It actually goes back years, during Trump's earlier presidency. Some officials believed the disability system needed to be modernized. Their argument was simple on the surface. People today live longer, some jobs are less physical, and older workers might be able to move into new, less demanding roles. On paper, this might sound reasonable, but when you look at real life, the picture changes quickly. Many Americans, especially those in their 50s and early 60s, have spent decades doing physically demanding work. Construction, trucking, caregiving, mining, factory work, home health, landscaping, jobs that wear down your body over time. When injuries, chronic pain, or major health conditions show up, just switching careers isn't easy. Under the proposed rule, a 60-year-old with severe back problems might be told, "You can work an office job." But what if there's no office nearby? What if they can't sit for long? What if they don't have computer skills? What if their body simply can't adjust? These were the questions disability advocates kept raising. And here's where things could have gotten very serious. Analysts estimated that nearly 750,000 people might lose disability benefits over 10 years if the rule went through. Another 80,000 widows, widowers, and children could lose benefits tied to someone else's work history. That means families losing rent money, grocery money, and access to Medicare before age 65. Some of the hardest hit places would have been rural states: West Virginia, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Mississippi. These areas rely heavily on physically demanding jobs, and people there often face health complications at younger ages. Many residents are also strong supporters of Trump, and internal polling showed that most of them would have opposed the rule. Disability advocates, lawmakers, and everyday Americans recognized quickly that the plan didn't reflect real life. It didn't take into account the struggles older workers face: physical, financial, emotional, and geographical. This is why the pushback was so intense. People weren't just fighting a policy. They were fighting for their ability to survive, work with dignity, and receive benefits they earned through years of labor. What happens next? The future of disability rules and the Social Security system. Now that the proposal has been abandoned, many people want to know what comes next. Will the idea return later? Is the disability system safe now, or are more changes still ahead? Here's what we know. The Social Security Administration, SSA, does plan to continue modernizing its system, but not in a way that removes age protections. That part is off the table for now. What they want to do instead is update the outdated job list they currently use. Believe it or not, some of the job titles in the old system include careers that no longer exist, like nut sorter and telephone quotation clerk. The government has already spent $350 million working on updating this list with the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Both Democrats and Republicans agree this part needs improvement, but disability advocates are making sure the modernization doesn't come at the cost of fairness. Commissioner Frank Bessignano has also said he wants to focus on reducing the massive backlog of disability applications. As of late 2025, 867,000 claims were still waiting for decisions. Most people were waiting over 200 days, more than half a year, just to find out if they qualify. For someone injured, sick, or unable to work, that kind of waiting period can push them into debt or homelessness. Another thing expected in the future is more transparency. There's talk that Commissioner Bessignano may start hosting public town halls to rebuild trust with the disability community. After this scare, people want clearer communication so they're not blindsided by sudden rule changes again. Now, here's something important to understand. Just because this rule was stopped doesn't mean the conversation is over forever. Different administrations may try to bring similar ideas back in the future. That's why it's so important for people to stay informed, not fearful, but aware. The good news is that this reversal shows how much power the public still has. It wasn't politics that stopped the rule. It was the voices of regular Americans, disability advocates, and lawmakers from both sides. One story in the right room at the right moment protected hundreds of thousands of people. Moving forward, SSA's main goals are clearer. Update job listings, fix backlogs, maintain fairness for older workers, improve the disability application process. For now, age protections remain in place, and that gives millions of older Americans the security they need during already challenging times. The human moment that changed everything. Now, let's talk about the surprising turning point. The moment that essentially stopped this rule from moving forward. This part of the story didn't happen on TV or in a public hearing. It happened quietly, behind closed doors, in a room most of us will never see. In mid-November, a group of disability advocates, along with attorney Jason Turkish, met with senior White House staff. They didn't come with charts or long speeches. They brought real stories. Stories of people whose lives would be completely turned upside down if age protections were removed from disability decisions. One story in particular stood out. It was about Christopher Tyner, a former coal miner who lost his leg in a work accident. Under the proposed rule, he could have been told he was still able to work in some alternative job, even though his injury was severe and permanent. As the story was read aloud, something shifted in the room. According to people who were there, even the officials who supported the policy looked taken aback. It wasn't abstract anymore. It wasn't numbers or projections. It was a real human life. Then something unexpected happened. Russell Vought, one of the top officials pushing this change, spoke up. He said very clearly, "This isn't going to be happening." People in the room were stunned. This reversal wasn't planned. It wasn't part of a script. It happened because the reality of the policy finally became impossible to ignore. After that meeting, Social Security Commissioner Frank Bessignano confirmed privately that the rule was being abandoned. He said the White House and SSA were aligned and would not move forward with it. No big announcement, no press conference, but the decision was real. One story, one meeting, and a rule affecting hundreds of thousands of older Americans came to a stop. It's a powerful reminder that policy is not just paperwork. It affects real people, workers, parents, caregivers, widows, and people who have spent entire lives building this country. And sometimes one honest story can make even the biggest institutions change course. What this means for you right now. So now that this rule has been stopped, what does it mean for you, your family, or someone you care about? First, older workers who are disabled will not be judged under stricter guidelines. The fear that people in their 50s or early 60s might suddenly lose benefits is off the table, for now. This is important because losing SSDI doesn't just mean losing a monthly check. It also means losing early Medicare access, which many disabled workers rely on for surgeries, medicines, and long-term treatment. Without Medicare, many would be forced into early retirement just to get medical coverage, which would permanently lower their Social Security checks for the rest of their lives. This decision protects people from that. Second, the people who would have been hurt the most, older workers with physical jobs, are safe from sudden changes. Areas like West Virginia, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Arkansas, where chronic health issues appear earlier and physical work is more common, will not face immediate losses in benefits. Third, this reversal shows that when people speak up, the system listens. Over 160 Democratic members of Congress protested the rule. Disability attorneys warned about the damage, advocates told real stories, and everyday Americans, people just like you, voiced their fear and frustration. Even internal polling showed that many Trump supporters would have opposed the policy. That meant moving forward could have upset a large part of the president's base. Fourth, this decision gives the Social Security Administration a chance to focus on what actually needs fixing, like the huge backlog of 867,000 disability claims and the outdated job list that has caused so many problems for decades. Finally, this whole experience is a reminder to stay informed. While the rule is dead for now, future administrations could revisit similar ideas. Staying aware, reading updates, and understanding the process helps protect your benefits and your stability. Right now, things remain the same. Your age is still a factor in disability decisions. Your protections are still in place, and the system is not changing overnight. That alone gives millions of older Americans a little more room to breathe and a sense of security they deserve. As we wrap up, there's something important I want you to remember. This story isn't just about a government rule. It's about real people, people who worked hard, paid into the system, and simply want a fair chance when their health collapses or their body can't keep up anymore. The rule that almost passed would have changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of older Americans. But it didn't move forward because people spoke up, advocates pushed back, and lawmakers from all sides realized the damage it could cause. The protections you rely on, especially if you're over 50, are still in place. That means Social Security will continue considering your age, your work history, and your real physical limitations when reviewing disability claims. But this whole situation shows how quickly things can shift. The proposal wasn't stopped because someone flipped a switch. It was stopped because people paid attention, asked questions, and refused to let an unfair rule move silently into place. So what should you do next? Stay informed. Policy changes can happen fast, and understanding what's happening helps you protect yourself. Check on loved ones who might be affected. Many people don't watch the news or miss important updates. Encourage anyone waiting on disability to stay consistent, respond to letters, and follow up because the backlog is still huge. Keep an eye on SSA updates about job listings, claim processing, and future policy shifts. And most importantly, remember this: your voice matters, your story matters, and your experiences matter more than any outdated job list or political talking point. This situation proved that empathy still has power, even in Washington, even in big agencies like Social Security. One person's story changed the direction of a national policy. If this helped you understand what's going on, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs clarity or reassurance today. You never know whose stress you might ease. Thank you for spending your time here. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and I'll see you in the next one.